back up.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Price Check Podcast is back, and we are back in full effect. I know it's been a long little hiatus we've been on since, I guess, last year's playoffs, but nevertheless, we are back like we never left, covering everything, anything NBA right now, which is going crazy. The league is just nuts, man. We saw history last week. The King, LeBron James, breaking the all-time NBA scoring record, so we definitely got to give it up for him one time. Of course, it's great that he did in the Lakers uniform, but we'll save that. Of course, making history last week, passing the torch from Kareem to him on that all-time scoring record. So shout out to LeBron James for that. But, of course, big news last week, NBA trade deadline, man. Crazy, crazy deadline. A lot of moving parts. It's going to mean a lot of changes for the league as a whole right now. A lot of teams, I think as many teams as 19 or 20 made trades or some type of move at the deadline last Thursday. So we won't cover every trade. We just want to hit on everything that is going to, be of major consequence, not only for teams in their particular conferences right now, but also what might, make the difference between some of these teams being true championship contenders and some of these teams who may not be. Now, of course, the biggest news to come out of last week's trade deadline is Kevin Durant going from Brooklyn to Phoenix, traded for, well, I guess it was him and TJ Warren. It was a little sneaky deal there. I see what you did, Phoenix, getting TJ Warren back. But Kevin Durant, TJ Warren go from Brooklyn to Phoenix. Phoenix sends out Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Jay Crowder, who ended up making his way to Milwaukee as part of a separate deal, and 4 first-round picks and a pick swap. Now, most people are reacting to this like, okay, this is now going to make Phoenix favorites. They are now, firmly in the championship discussion. And I just got to say, not so fast, my friend. My man Lee Corso would say that best. Not so fast. But I think while there is a rightful discussion about them entering that championship contender discussion, I'm a little hesitant just to crown them as the favorite simply because we've seen year in and year out now in the NBA, it's not just about your stars. It's about the depth behind those stars. You got Kevin Durant. You got Devin Booker. You got Chris Paul. You got DeAndre Ayton. DeAndre doesn't really want to be there from what we can tell. Chris Paul is, very, very injury prone at this point. He's also going to be 38 years old. So Kevin Durant is 34, soon to be 35, and is on his second straight year of an MCL injury. And Devin Booker just came back last week from a groin injury. So you've got some guys who are a little bit injury prone at this point, and you don't have a whole lot behind them. Of course, they got a buyout agreement with Terrence Ross, so he'll come over from Orlando. I do like that they made the trade with OKC for Darius Bazley. They sent out Dario Saric, which is another big for them, so not as much insurance there behind DeAndre Ayton. But again, I also understand you get a chance to trade for Kevin Durant, who, at this point, probably top 20 all time, let alone, top 10 in the league right now. You get another guy like that you can add to this core that has already made the trip to the finals. I guess you got to take the chance to do it. I'm just not 100% sold that this puts them immediately back into the finals. They still got a lot of teams to overcome out west, but nonetheless, I think it's a win-win trade for both sides, right? So Brooklyn got what they needed to be able to build long-term now. They get to stockpile some more picks, get some young talent in there with Bridges and Johnson, and, kind of get to say goodbye to the Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving era, which was not all that great to them. Speaking of Kyrie Irving, they also sent him out last week to the Dallas Mavericks. Now, Dallas, they got a chance to play with him and Luka for the first time over the weekend. Didn't work out in their favor. It was a close loss that they took in overtime to the Sacramento Kings. De'Aaron Fox, the bad boy, went for 36 in that game. But Dallas is a team, they needed to do something. They needed to get Luka a co-star. This was their opportunity to do so. Like it, but don't love it for them also. But if you're Brooklyn, you get to say goodbye to those guys, get to start fresh, start over. I still think Sean Marks probably needs to have his job, reevaluate it, but different story for a different podcast. Now, the other big news that you have coming out of this trade deadline, of course, Russell Westbrook traded from the Los Angeles Lakers to the Utah Jazz. Lakers get back D'Angelo Russell from the Minnesota Timberwolves. They also get Malik Beasley and Jared Vanderbilt from the Jazz. So rotation players that can definitely fill that team out around LeBron James and Anthony Davis. They send out Russell Westbrook to Utah, and I believe Damian Jones as well as Juan Toscano-Anderson, and one of those two coveted first-round picks that they have available, 2027 first-round pick that is top 4 protected. So, of course, if that pick lands in the top 4, it definitely becomes Lakers again. They then instead convey 4 second-round picks to the Jazz instead. So you have a situation where also didn't forget to mention here in that trade, Mike Conley goes to Minnesota from Utah as well. So Utah is stripping this thing down. They want the picks. They want the cap space. They're trying to make some room to be a little bit more flexible with their roster here come the offseason. Lakers, of course, are trying to, get this thing to a place where they can still try to make a run for it, right? They get, really good shooting point guard and a good playmaker in Russell. Of course, he may not have the same effort or motor that a Russell Westbrook may have, but, that might turn out to work in his favor with how the Lakers are playing. Malik Beasley, of course, is that knockdown shooter you definitely need. Not ideal for him to go 0 for 6 from three-point range in his debut as a Laker, but we'll save that. Jared Vanderbilt, also a quality rotation big that is going to give you some different looks at how you can play both with Anthony Davis on the court as well as him off the court. So like the deal for the Lakers, do I love it? Not necessarily, but at the same time, they have to make a move. Things were getting pretty dire there with Russell Westbrook, not only on the court, but in the locker room for some of the reports that have come out since then. We'll see if he stays in Utah. The word is that he's probably going to get bought out with some interest from the Miami Heat as well as the Los Angeles Clippers. So a lot of moving parts there. Utah, again, they're just trying to strip this thing down, wanting to get into the best possible situation long-term for themselves. Not really understanding the motive for Minnesota. Of course, they wanted I guess maybe more reliable veteran point guard that they could put there next to Anthony Edwards. But Mike Conley is getting up there in age. Anthony Edwards is entering his prime. Not really on the same timetable with those two players. I guess, Mike Conley has a little bit better rapport with Rudy Gobert, who is starting center there now in Minnesota. So maybe that's a little bit of a part of it. But, again, a little bit skeptical for Minnesota and how this actually makes them better right now. But I can also understand the motive of, D'Angelo Russell is an expiring contract. Conley, you can lock in for a little bit of a cheaper number next year and still not necessarily miss a beat with how you want to build things around that young wing and Anthony Edwards. So that was kind of the main course, so to speak, in terms of the two trades that were the biggest shock waves of the deadline. You had some other smaller deals that I liked as well. This whole, crazy deal with the Warriors trading for Gary Payton II and him not really being healthy and Portland covering up, giving him Toradol, all this kind of stuff. A lot of moving parts in that one. I think we finally got that trade finalized to where that 4-team trade now goes through, where James Wiseman goes from Golden State to Detroit. Sadiq Bey goes from Detroit to Atlanta. Kevin Knox, I believe, goes from Atlanta to Golden State. And then, of course, Portland gets some second-round picks while sending out Gary Payton II as well. So a lot of moving parts. A lot of teams that are making moves with the hopes of making themselves better for the stretch run. Now we just got to see how that actually pans out for a lot of these teams. And so biggest things that we're now going to be watching for post-trade deadline. What's going to happen with Phoenix? Can Kevin Durant lift them back up into that championship discussion? Right now, Denver is definitely the class of the Western Conference. They've been on a hell of a run this season. Jokic is playing at that same MVP caliber level that he's played at the last couple seasons. You got Memphis out there as well where, they haven't played their best basketball of late, but Ja Morant is still going crazy right now on the court. They're starting to get a little bit healthier. They made a trade themselves, bringing in Luke Kennard from the Clippers, sending Danny Green out in a 3-team deal with Houston. He got bought out from Houston. I believe they're also going to buy out John Wall, who, funny enough, got sent back to Houston as well. But Memphis, I think, they just need some adults in the locker room. Maybe Luke Kennard is that, I guess. But they are a team that has the talent to be able to make a run. Definitely a team that Phoenix would need to be worried about if they're trying to get out of the West. Sacramento, a team that I love watching this year. I don't know if they really have the capability of winning a championship or making the finals, but they're going to be a tough out for whoever plays them come the playoffs. Same thing with the Dallas team that we mentioned a little bit earlier in trading for Kyrie. You still have teams like the Clippers, I guess, still in the mix. I'm always skeptical of the Clippers. We don't know if Kawhi and Paul George are going to stay healthy. Lots to see on that front. The Lakers could possibly make a move. The Warriors, they, are without Stephen Curry right now, but the rest of that team is starting to gel a little bit. Maybe they're able to make a run. We've seen Minnesota start to make a little bit of a run lately with how well Anthony Edwards is playing. So a lot of moving parts out west. I don't know that I can definitely say that the Suns are going to make it out of that gauntlet. There's a lot of teams come playoff time where you feel like, hey, depending on the matchups, they can win at least one playoff series. So very, very interested to see how this all turns out with Phoenix and whether or not that depth actually matters, or, when it comes crunch time and you got to guard Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, how many teams are going to be able to say they can do that successfully. So now switching gears over to the Eastern Conference, I think there is a clear line in the sand, so to speak, between the teams that are contenders for sure and the teams who are not. I think Boston Celtics, the Milwaukee Bucks, the Philadelphia 76ers, and to a slightly lesser extent, the Cleveland Cavaliers are really the teams that I expect to be true contenders in the Eastern Conference. Philly, now people might, laugh or scoff at that one, but Joel Embiid is playing out of his mind right now. Some of the best basketball he's played in his entire career. James Harden, while he's not the James Harden that we've seen in Houston, places like that, he is still capable of turning on here and there. So they've got a team that is also a little bit better built around them now to be able to make one of those deeper runs. And so depending on the matchups that they see, you could find yourself looking up and seeing the Philadelphia 76ers in the Eastern Conference Finals. Of course, Milwaukee, Boston, we've seen them the last couple years. Those teams are exactly who we think they are. The Boston Celtics have been the best team in the Eastern Conference pretty much all season long. Little injured right now, but those are, injuries that aren't going to be anything that lasts the totality of the remainder of the season, right? So you got Jaylen Brown out right now, but he'll be back probably, right after the All-Star break. I imagine they're going to get Marcus Smart back here pretty soon. Malcolm Brogdon has kind of been in and out of the lineup, but has played well when he's been there. Derek White has been amazing for them, so he's kind of the unsung hero for that team right now. Would have liked for them to get a little bit more insurance as far as big men go behind Robert Williams and the agent Al Horford, but they made the trade to get Mike Muscala from OKC. He'll do enough as far as being able to space the floor, give those guys a breather, that type of thing, to where he's not playing, major crunch time minutes and being a defensive liability or anything like that. So, like Boston, Milwaukee, of course, we mentioned them getting Jay Crowder. Love that addition for them. Gives them a little bit more flexibility in the lineups that they can put out there alongside Giannis. Chris Middleton is starting to get his groove back a little bit as well. So I think Milwaukee is definitely going to be a force to be reckoned with. Now, Cleveland, I know I said to a slightly lesser extent, I do think they're going to be in the mix. The difference for them is going to be what Donovan Mitchell are they getting come playoff time. Darius Garland has been extremely consistent for them at the point guard spot. Evan Mobley is starting to take that leap at that power forward spot. Jared Allen, solid as ever, holding down your center position. Donovan Mitchell, being that go-to scorer for them, being the guy that's going to get them buckets when they need them the most. How is he going to be able to consistently do that come playoff time is going to be a big question for them as to whether or not they have true championship hopes. Their wing depth is also a little bit hit or miss. I'm not the biggest Isaac Okoro and Karis LeVert fan. They did go out and get Danny Green as a buyout guy, so they'll also get Kevin Love back from injury here in the second half as well. So I think Cleveland has some pieces that I like. Matchups are going to be big for them and whether or not they can truly make some type of run in the Eastern Conference. So a lot of moving parts here over the second half of the NBA season. A lot that we're going to be checking in on here from time to time now. Again, we took a little bit of a hiatus, but we are really back in full effect here on the Price Check Podcast. You will get this at least once a week here moving forward. We also got some ideas in the works to where this might become a twice a week thing from a video standpoint. So, you know, a lot of NBA storylines to check out. We got a great night of NBA basketball here tonight, Monday night. So things are picking up. Things are going to be just outstanding basketball-wise, and I can't wait to cover it all and provide that content to y'all watching and listening here at home. So, till next time, thank you for joining. Make sure you like, subscribe, share everywhere, YouTube as well as anywhere that you get podcasts. But till next time, this is Josh Price. Check it out.